Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 553, 553, September 19th, 2018, Wednesday. Yes, it is Wednesday, and you know what I do on Wednesday? Take out the trash and have chicken. Every Wednesday. I take out the trash and I have chicken. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and get right to it. Well, at this point, like everyone else, we've seen about a dozen different stories now. What's going to happen with the Kavanaugh hearing. Take your pick, which one you believe. They're all different. But at this point, the best that I can do is it appears that, and this could change in 5 minutes, it appears that Grassley has canceled the vote for Thursday on Kavanaugh. This probably has to do with this rule, which says that if there's something like this comes up, that you have to give a person who may want to come and talk to the Senate or whatever, you must give them 1 week in order to be able to do that. So apparently Grassley on Monday contacted the attorney for the accuser of Kavanaugh and said, okay, we're extending an invitation to your client to come and talk to the Senate. You can do it either in closed session or open session. Totally up to you. But our rules say that you have 1 week to show up. So next Monday, we're going to hold a hearing. And if your client's here, great. If not, that's great. Kavanaugh at that point can decide whether or not he wants to comment on that. I'm thinking he will. So this appears to be where things are. Now, as far as getting another vote scheduled, well, there's a couple different stories going on there. There's one story where Lindsey Graham says, yeah, that they'll have this hearing on Monday, and then they'll vote on Tuesday. There's another story that says they'll vote on Wednesday. There's another story that says no, that they'll have this hearing on Monday, but then after that, on Tuesday, lawmakers will be going back home, leaving Washington. So it's really hard to know what exactly is going to happen. It seems pretty clear at this point they are going to, set aside Monday as a day to have the hearing. Whether or not the accuser is actually going to show up or not is still not clear. Whether or not they'll take a vote after that is still not clear. There are also other stories suggesting that no Democrats are going to show up if they do have a vote on Tuesday. They're saying that, yeah, they can have the hearings on Monday. Many Democrats are not planning on showing up for the hearing. They're not planning on showing up for a vote or anything else. This is a pretty risky political stunt that they're playing with, and I still, as I said yesterday, I believe this is a political stunt that will be seen as a political stunt and will backfire. But I think the way that the Democrats look at this is it's a Hail Mary. They're going to lose the game anyway. I mean, if you're down by a touchdown and there's 5 seconds left on the clock, what have you got to lose? You air it out into the end zone. Maybe it gets picked off, maybe it gets deflected, knocked down, but maybe somebody leaps up there and makes the catch and you tie the game. Who knows? It's a Hail Mary. They've really got nothing to lose, except for the fact that it could have serious blowback. But maybe in their minds they're going to lose anyway. It's very despicable. It's very sickening. I know for a lot of you. It certainly is for me. The way this thing has played itself out. And at this point, that's all I know. It's, maybe they'll have a hearing on Monday. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll have a vote next week. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But I can tell you this, that the Republicans, Grassley and the Republicans, better be very, very careful how they handle this. Because if they come off looking like sissies and coming off having been bullied and letting the Democrats push them around here, it could seriously affect turnout for them. Grassley, I understand that there are rules and he has to follow the rules. And the rules apparently say that he has to give this accuser 1 week. But if I'm Grassley, I don't know how you have to work this out. But, I guess he has to follow the rules, so you go ahead and have the hearing on Monday. But I would make absolutely damn sure that everybody knows that they're going to have a vote. And if they're all planning on leaving on Tuesday, have the vote after the hearing on Monday. I don't care if they're there at midnight on Monday night. Have the vote. I'm confident that he'll get the votes. No Republicans, except for maybe Flake, will vote against this. Maybe Corker. But, we'll see. I mean, Flake and Corker can go ahead and threaten not to vote. But There'll be a price to pay because these guys do have some aspirations for a post-career, unless they want to go live in a cave somewhere, because they'll not be able to go out and show their face anywhere if they vote against Kavanaugh on a scheme like this. And of course, there are three to five Democrats that may still be forced to vote for it because they're locked up in dead heats right now in their election campaigns back home in states where Trump won by a good margin. They've got 2 or 3 votes to play with. If Schumer could have strong-armed them into not supporting Kavanaugh at this point, if he had that ability, that would have happened. Now maybe he thinks this gives him more leverage on those 3 to 5 Democrats, but I don't think it does, because they're looking at their own political situation back home, and no matter what Chucky tells them, they're just going to look at him and say, hey, first of all, this stunt you pulled has not gone over very well back in the district where I am, which Trump won by 20 points, so you just made my life much harder getting reelected by pulling this stunt at the 11th hour, and, if I fall for it, I'll certainly lose. So I don't think that he has that much leverage at all. But anyway, this is where we are in the Kavanaugh hearings, but I do know this. They better vote next week after they have this hearing, and they better confirm him. That's what better happen, or it could seriously affect the turnout in these very states where we have these close elections and these Senate races. This could affect 2 or 3 Senate seats. How they handle this, I hope Chucky handles it well. Chuck Grassley, he's a good man. He's pretty smart. He's been around a long time. I think he will play it correctly. We'll see how it goes. Probably the best comment I've seen made on this issue in the last 2 days has been by Lindsey Graham, who I'm not a big fan of Lindsey Graham, but I got to hand it to him. I really think he probably nailed it better than anybody when he was interviewed on Fox. And he raised the following questions. He said, well, first of all, let's keep in mind that the whole story here is that this woman did not want to come out. She did not want to be made public. Well, Lindsey Graham says if that's the case, then why did she hire a lawyer back in July? And why did she take this lie detector? She obviously had every intention of going public. So that's not going to hold water. Very good question by Lindsey Graham. And he also asked, who is paying for it? Who is paying for it? That's always a question you got to ask. So yes, those are very good questions by Lindsey Graham. And very good assertion by Lindsey Graham. It shoots down this whole theory that you keep hearing over and over again on the left-wing media. Well, she didn't want to come out. That's why Feinstein waited so long, and she only came out at the last moment because by then everyone realized who she was. This was an entire political setup from the very beginning. This whole thing, within seconds of this thing hitting the news, that Feinstein had referred this to the FBI or whatever, within seconds, according to her own lawyer, she was being swarmed by reporters, emailing her, coming to her house, coming to where she works. They all knew exactly who she was. They didn't find that out in 10 seconds. I knew exactly who she was. And she knew exactly what she was going to do. Because like Lindsey Graham said, she lined up an attorney back in July. Took this lie detector test. She had every intention. This entire thing was carefully planned out and manipulated. It's a political stunt. And it's very obvious. I don't like having my intelligence tricked with like this, and I'm sure most of you don't either. We're not buying it. We're not that stupid. It obviously was a political stunt. Very well, very carefully played out. And I do believe it will backfire ultimately in the end, if the Republicans play their hand correctly, which is not to get pushed around or bullied. Here's another thing. You keep hearing these, again, left-wingers and other people saying, yeah, well, and a lawyer as well, and others saying, well, she didn't want to come out because, the abuse that she's going to take, and this does nothing good for her, and blah, 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 blah. She's making this great sacrifice to come out to save the country from Kavanaugh. This is all complete bullshit. Bullshit. I'm calling total bullshit right now. First of all, she doesn't care about the people on the right, conservatives who are going to lambast her for the dirty, rotten political trick and the lie that she's telling to destroy this man. She doesn't care about that. She knows that she's going to become an icon, a hero to her peers who are left-wing, SJW, academia, people like that, left-wing media, Democrats. She's going to become a hero to them, and that's all she cares about. So the idea that she's going to come out on the short end of the stick is bullshit. Just like Anita Hill, she will be revered as a great hero. Her left-wing friends will love her. She'll receive all sorts of accolades and gifts and all sorts of things. She'll probably get a book deal if she doesn't already have one. She's probably already got a publicist lining up her appearances, paid appearances, on The View and CNN and MSNBC and everywhere. You won't see her on Fox. You won't see her on any conservative, anywhere near a conservative news program. She won't talk to any conservatives, I can promise you that. But she'll be all over the liberal media network, and she'll be getting paid because she'll have someone booking that stuff for her. And they'll be telling them what the going rate is. Who will pay top dollar? Who will pay her top dollar for the first interview, the second interview, the third interview? She's going to make out like a bandit on this deal. Probably get $1 million advance for a book. Oh, let's not forget the big payoff that she's really looking for. Let me tell you what that is. The big payoff is that she gets a job at an Ivy League university instead of that small little college that she teaches at now. She'll get an Ivy League job, probably making $400, $500 grand a year, tenure, the whole 9 yards. Some left-wing, radical Ivy League school will reach into their deep, deep pockets and pull out as many hundreds of thousands of dollars they need to lure her there. They'll pay her a big-ass salary, give her tenure, make her a professor, stick her in a nice big office, and she won't have to do a damn thing the rest of her life but cash in. She's not giving up shit. She's making out like a bandit. She's already got this all planned out. She knows how much money she's going to cash in on. Millions. This woman will make millions. Even if she's proven to be a complete liar, she will still make millions. I'm telling you, she'll get a job. A year from now, she will have a tenured position at an Ivy League school, making $300-400 grand a year. She will probably have written a book or two with probably $1 million advance. She'll be a hero of the left. She'll get paid to go on all these shows. She's not giving up anything. This has all been planned out. She's probably got a publicist and everything else, man, already lined up. Ghostwriters already probably rolling up their sleeves. Probably already got the first 3 chapters written. I'm not buying it. Total bullshit. And most of you, if not all of you, know it. And now we learned that, well, actually I reported on this too about 2 weeks ago, and that we just have more information now, that those protesters, and they'll be back on Monday, you can bet, if they have that court hearing, they'll be back on Monday, that these protesters that we saw that got arrested at the Kavanaugh hearings back about a week or 2 ago when they were making asses of themselves in the hearings, we find out now that the group that was paying them as they were getting thrown out to pay their court fines after being arrested, we find out that that group is called Housing Works. Housing Works. They are a George Soros funded operation. So essentially George Soros paying the fines for the crazy left-wing wackos that went in and turned the first part of these hearings into a shit show. And they'll be back on Monday. On force. You can bet on that. And George will be out there passing out more cash to pay their court fines as well. We also have that idiot, criminal, Andrew McCabe, writing an anti-Trump book where he's going to try to make Trump look like a terrorist. Believe it or not. And believe it or not, he knows it's all bullshit, but that's okay because, again, lots and lots of liberals, probably millions of them, will go out and buy this book and believe every word of it. Even while McCabe is being tried for his crimes and taken away in ankle chains, they'll be buying his book and talking about how he got railroaded. So it will be a political book, and he's trying to cash in as well. Something else he's jumping on too, you can bet. Something else that we can expect to happen, which is why I told you all a long time ago to buckle up. Once the perps are finally caught and the prosecutions begin, you watch. The Dems and all their allies will be calling for blood in the streets. Blood in the streets. I believe Loretta Lynch already did that, did she not? But when justice is brought to these people, or we attempt to bring justice to these people, this is how they'll respond. They'll call for civil unrest. They want to see blood in the streets. Oh, you're going to prosecute McCabe? You're going to prosecute Strzok and Page and Hillary and the Rotten and everybody else? Go ahead and try it. We'll go for civil unrest. We'll go for blood in the streets. That's exactly what they're going to do. And everybody knows it. Well, I imagine most of you have seen the video from Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, where he's got this State Department official who's not aware that he's being videotaped. And you've got him right there. This is the first video. It's the only one I've seen. It's about 8 or 9, 10 minutes long, something like that. But the guy basically sits there. He's a card-carrying member of the Socialist Party. He's telling Project Veritas on camera, he doesn't realize he's being recorded, but he's talking about how he does his work for the Socialist Party of America while he's at work doing his day job. And of course he also says that he's vowed, and other people around him, I guess, part of his group there at the State Department, are vowed to, quote, fuck shit up on Trump. Fuck shit up on Trump. That's what he's doing. We're paying his salary to sit there at the State Department while he does most of the day. He spends writing propaganda for the Socialist Party of America, and the rest of the time he's busy fucking shit up on Trump. Needless to say, since the video was released, the State Department has come out and said, okay, yeah, we're definitely going to investigate that and have a look at that. He also claims that there's no way you can be fired as a federal employee, which I've, of course, told you is true. But then again, having done what he just did, he might actually get fired. We'll see. And we'll see what else Project Veritas has. But so far, the first video was pretty alarming. We have the Rotten Reverend Clinton. She's back out there trying to push the paperback copy of her crummy book that Bill Clinton threw in the garbage after he read a couple chapters of. And it looks like she's calling again to abolish the Electoral College. I've already gone through this in detail, so I'm not going to do it again, about why you cannot abolish the Electoral College and why we have it in the first place. And she's quite aware of it. What this tells you is that the Rotten Reverend, like her friends, realize that they've become so far to the left, so unhinged to the left, that they can no longer win national elections. They can win on the coasts. They can win in the large cities, urban areas. That's all they can win. It's nearly impossible for them to win in the South, the Midwest, the Rust Belt, the Farm Belt, or anywhere else. They can win on the East Coast and the West Coast and large urban centers. You can't win national elections if that's all you can do. You got to win some states in the Midwest. You got to pick up 1 or 2 in the South, somewhere. The Democrats know that that's no longer what they can do. So now they want to change the game because they know they can't win at the game that we have now. And so they just want to change the rules in the middle of the game. That's basically all that boils down to. It's not going to work. We're not going to get away from the Electoral College. There's a couple states trying to do it already on a state level. We'll see how that works out. Well, this proves that even a broken clock is right twice a day, or at least once a day. Little Marco is calling for Kerry to be investigated. Yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and investigate, but I don't know what you have to investigate. He's already admitted to going to Iran and giving advice to the Iranians on how to counter American foreign policy. What's the investigation for? You investigate to find out if it happened. Kerry's admitted it has happened. So, little Marco's half right. We just need to go ahead and lock his ass up. Let's go ahead and lock him up and charge him. He's already admitted to doing the crime. He's admitted it. Now probably This is a story everybody's going to like. This story will appeal to you whether you're a Q person or a non-Q person. The True Pundit. Uh-oh. It appears that Andy McCabe and Peter's been stroking us tried to destroy evidence and documents during their final days that they had access to FBI files and computers. But as it turns out, the FBI suspected that, so both were targeted for a sting operation, and both have been caught. Apparently, no shit Sherlock, Christopher Wray, the FBI with her director, set up the sting. Both were under 24-hour surveillance at the office and outside the FBI headquarters in D.C. The attempted deletions were recorded and the records have been restored. It is likely that their phones were also being monitored. Federal sources tell the True Pundit that both Peter Strzok and Andy McCabe are targets of a grand jury investigation, as well as others whose names were not disclosed. It appears that John Huber is running the grand jury, according to a DOJ official. Now, let me go ahead and say that one more time, for those of you who didn't miss it. And sometimes when you're getting things on video and you don't have the words in front of you, it's a little hard to grasp. So let me go through it one more time, exactly what I'm reporting to you here. According to the True Pundit, Andy McCabe and Peter's been stroking us tried to destroy evidence and documents during their final days that they had access to FBI files and computers. But as it turns out, the FBI suspected that, so both were targeted for a sting operation, and both have been caught. Apparently, Chris Wray directed the operation, and he used the IG, the Inspector General's office, to set up the sting. Both were under 24-hour surveillance at their office and outside the FBI headquarters in D.C. The attempted deletions were recorded, and the records were restored. They were caught. It's likely their phones were also being monitored. Federal sources are telling the True Pundit that both Peter Strzok and Andy McCabe are targets of a grand jury investigation, as well as others whose names were not disclosed. It appears that John Huber is running the grand jury, according to a DOJ official. There you go. Very interesting. Now, last night, as I was perusing a little bit of 8chan, I stumbled onto some Q stuff, because there's a lot of Q stuff on 8chan. And there was some talk last night that Sessions has been meeting secretly with Huber on the weekends. Now, as most of you know, I'm not a huge, follower of Q. I'm kind of, I don't necessarily try to debunk Q. I don't necessarily support Q. I generally don't report too much I want to see about Q. I follow other sources. But based on this story that we get today, I just thought it would be worth mentioning that this did show up in a post I was looking at last night, where someone was stating that Huber and Sessions have been having secret meetings. Now, Sessions is in D.C. I imagine when he gets a chance to go somewhere, he goes back to Alabama, where his home is. Huber is in Nevada, or Utah, I think. Utah. So, not really sure. I don't know. I mean, I guess Sessions has a private jet. I guess he can get on his private jet, or Huber can get on a private jet and fly out to Washington in a couple hours, and they can have meetings or whatever. So, it's possible that this could be happening. I don't know. Again, I remain very skeptical of just about everything, unless I have some proof. I don't have any proof that this is true. But when you look at the story that we have today, and they're saying that Huber is the guy who's running this grand jury, it tells you that Huber is actually involved in some way. I've been very hard on Huber because I haven't seen anything. But maybe he's just keeping it all very quiet. And I've certainly left that open as a possibility. Maybe Huber is busy. Maybe he is taking care of business. I don't know. This is one of the first instances of anything I've seen suggesting he is actually involved. So, yeah, maybe it's true. Maybe Huber is, in fact, running a secret grand jury. And, but this story here from the True Pundit, their sources are some federal sources, which I assume that they're getting their information from Washington. So this would be probably federal sources in Washington telling the True Pundit about this sting operation on McCabe and Strzok, because they knew or suspected from the IG report, what they learned there and probably everything else they've learned, they probably suspected that this might happen, that Strzok and McCabe might try to destroy documents or evidence to cover their butt. So this is obviously something that they suspected would happen, and they went ahead and ran a sting operation just to see if, in fact, McCabe and Strzok would attempt to do it, and it appears that they did. And, of course, we know that we heard probably, 2-3 weeks ago, that there had been a grand jury impaneled for McCabe, and there had been several witnesses, and there are still more witnesses to come. So this is not the first that we've heard of a grand jury. We heard that a couple weeks ago. So it's becoming more and more likely that these reports of a grand jury are true. And if the reports of a grand jury are true, who would be behind this grand jury? Well, I think it would most likely be Huber. And the fact that they ran this operation, the sting operation, out of the IG's office, and we know that Sessions said that Huber would be there as a right-hand man to the IG, so that anything the IG discovered, he could refer it to Huber or what have you. It is very possible that that there is something going on very secretly, very quietly behind the scenes as an operation to smoke these people out. Maybe they are conducting some very secret hearings. It's hard to do, as you can see, because a couple weeks ago we started hearing about this so-called secret grand jury. Now it's not so secret. It's being reported on. As I said, it's hard to keep that secret. So maybe they've just been gaining a lot of information and getting a lot of documents and things together, and once they got all that together, they convened the grand jury and then started hearing witnesses a couple of weeks ago. This is likely what could be going on. In other words, what that would mean is that there could be some truth to what we hear coming out of Q. And again, I'm not a huge fan of Q. I don't necessarily follow Q, but I've not 100% decided that it's zero chance of it being legitimate. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just coincidence. I don't really care. All I care is that the perps get prosecuted for their crimes, and we expose the crimes. That's what I care about. How they do it, I don't care. Who does it, I don't care. I just want it done. Finally, Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, has come out, and I don't know if this was done in a tweet or a statement, but he stated that he hopes that individuals of conscience will block Trump's declassification order. Individuals of conscience will block Trump's declassification order. Well, it's individuals without a conscience who've been blocking the truth, Mr. Potato Head. The declassification and the disclosure of the truth is what's going to lead to your going to prison, Mr. Potato Head. That's why you're concerned. You have no conscience, obviously. Clearly, he's, like a lot of these people, very, very nervous. And by the way, they can't really block Trump. It is executive privilege. The president can declassify and release any damn thing he wants. Now, he will act, usually, by having his various lawyers and FBI and DOJ and intelligence people advise him on whether or not he may be giving up sources or methods or something like that, so he doesn't put anyone or anything at danger or any investigations in jeopardy. That's a consideration the president will make. But he ultimately has the final call. You know, there's also the possibility that you could have something happen where you could have, you know, 2 or 3 members, maybe the head of the, maybe Coates and Rodenstein and Bray could come to him and say, if you do this, declassify this, we're going to resign and cause a political shitstorm. Well, that's true. They can do that. They could threaten to resign and cause a complete, you know, political nightmare for Trump on the eve of a midterm election. And the Republicans, they could certainly do that. That's a political risk you run. But at this point, it's, you know, ultimately the president's call. He can declassify and release anything. Now, weighing the political consequences of that is another thing. But for Brennan to say that he can be blocked, yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, no, you can't block the president. He can release anything he wants, but yeah, you can block it in terms of they could create a lot of problems for him if he does release things that they don't want to release. So, yeah, I mean, you can look at it either way. But either way, Mr. Potato Head, your ass is going to prison for a very long time. The truth is going to come out, regardless of whether it's before or after the midterms, or with the approval or disapproval of Rodenstein, Ray, or anyone else. Ultimately, there are too many congressional leaders calling for this to be declassified. There's no sources or methods in here really that are going to be exposed, because this was not a real intelligence investigation. It was a frame-up on the president and the people around him in his campaign. That's what we're going to learn, Mr. Potato Head, and that's why you're going to prison as well, for the multiple violations that you and your friends committed. And that's why you're so upset, Mr. Potato Head. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow and we'll see what shoe drops next. Thanks so much. Bye.